It's late, and you're still awake. Not because you're doing anything. Not because there's a task in front of you or a light left on by accident or a sound you need to check on. You're awake because your mind won't let you rest, because somewhere underneath the silence of this room, there's a thought circling, quiet but relentless, refusing to let the night simply be night. Tomorrow. Just the word alone feels heavier than it should. Maybe it's a conversation you have to have, and you already know how it's going to go, no matter how many times you rehearse it differently in your head. Maybe it's a bill you don't know how to pay, sitting on the counter or in an inbox you've stopped opening. Maybe it's simply waking up again and facing the same weight you carried yesterday and the day before that and the week before that, stretching backward further than you'd like to admit. You're not dramatic for feeling this way. You're not weak. You're not failing at something everyone else seems to have figured out. You're just tired, in a place words don't quite reach, a tiredness that sleep doesn't fully touch because it isn't only in your body. It's somewhere deeper. If you're watching this tonight, I don't think you stumbled here by accident. I think some part of you needed to hear before anything else is said, that what you're feeling right now in this exact moment is real, and it's allowed. You don't need to justify it or explain it or make it smaller than it is just to be here. So let's just sit with that for a second before we go any further. You're allowed to be tired of tomorrow. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that has nothing to do with how much sleep you've gotten. You can rest for 8 hours and still wake up feeling like you never laid down at all. Like the weight simply waited for you patiently on the other side of the night. That's not laziness. That's not a lack of discipline. That's not a lack of faith either, no matter how many times that thought has quietly crossed your mind. That's what happens when the soul is tired, long before the body ever catches up to admit it. Maybe you know exactly what tomorrow holds, and that's the problem because you've already lived it in your mind 100 times, in 100 painful variations, each one ending slightly worse than the last. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe you have no idea what tomorrow holds and that uncertainty feels like standing at the edge of something dark, with no light to show you even the next single step. Either way, the weight is the same. It sits on your chest when you're trying to fall asleep, pressing just slightly, just enough that you notice it every time you breathe. It follows you into the shower, into the car, into the quiet moments when no one else is watching, and there's no reason left to keep performing fine. You smile when you need to. You answer the phone when you have to. You keep functioning because life doesn't really give most of us the option to simply stop. But somewhere inside there's a version of you that's just quietly asking in a voice only you can hear, how much longer can I do this? I want you to know something before we go any further tonight. You don't have to perform strength for me here. You don't have to explain why you're tired, or justify the size of your pain by comparing it to someone else's harder story, someone else's worse situation. Pain isn't a competition. Yours doesn't need to win a contest to be worthy of being felt. Whatever tomorrow is asking of you, whatever it's threatening to take from you, or whatever it's simply refusing to give you, it's heavy. And heavy things don't need permission to hurt. Here's something no one really tells you about heaviness like this. It's not just about the size of the problem in front of you. It's about how alone you feel while carrying it. You can be surrounded by people, by noise, by a full calendar and a phone that never stops buzzing, and still feel like you are the only one who actually knows how bad it's gotten, how close to the edge you've been standing. Because most people only see the parts of your life you let them see. They see you show up. They see you cope. They see the version of you that got dressed and answered the emails and said, "I'm okay," when someone asked in passing, not really expecting a real answer. They don't see the 3 a.m. thoughts. They don't see the tight chest before a phone call you've been avoiding for a week. They don't see the tears in a parked car, quickly wiped away before you walk into work with a face that gives nothing away. So the pain isn't just heavy, it's a hidden heavy. And hidden weight is the hardest kind to carry because you're spending energy on 2 things at once, the actual problem, and the exhausting work of hiding how much it's costing you to keep standing. We're taught, in subtle ways, that struggling is something to manage quietly, privately, and quickly so as not to inconvenience anyone else with the reality of what you're going through. So we try the usual things. We try to think positive. We try to just have faith, in a way that feels more like forcing a smile over an open wound than actually letting anything heal. We tell ourselves, tomorrow will probably be fine, even when every part of us doesn't quite believe that sentence, even as we're saying it. And when it doesn't work, when the anxiety comes back anyway, right on schedule at 11 p.m., we quietly conclude that something must be wrong with us. That maybe our faith isn't strong enough, that maybe we're simply the problem, that other people seem to trust God more easily, more naturally than we do. That is such a cruel lie. You are not failing at faith. You're a human being, standing under something legitimately heavy, doing your best to hold it up with 2 tired arms, and no one taught you how heavy this particular thing would be. The truth is, most of the coping strategies we're handed, distraction, forced positivity, sheer willpower, were never built to carry something this size. They were built for inconvenience, not for genuine dread. And when we use a small tool on a large wound, of course it doesn't work. That's not a flaw in you. That's a flaw in the tool. What you actually need isn't a better technique or a sharper mindset, or one more strategy pulled from somewhere online. What you need is somewhere to set this down, even for a moment, where it won't be judged, rushed past, or explained away with a tidy verse and a smile. If this is describing something you're going through right now, I want you to know you're not alone in this room tonight. And if you feel like staying a little longer, consider subscribing, not because this channel needs the number, but because I genuinely like to keep sitting with you through nights like this one whenever they come. There's a story in the Bible that rarely gets told with the weight it actually carries. It's the story of a woman named Hagar. And before we go further, I want you to understand who she actually was, not the flattened version we sometimes hear in passing, but the real woman in the real desert, facing a tomorrow she had no way to survive on her own. Hagar was a servant, an Egyptian woman with no real power over her own life, caught in the middle of a family's brokenness that was never hers to begin with. She had a son, Ishmael, a boy she loved fiercely, the way any mother loves the child she has held since his first breath. And then one morning, everything she had was placed in her hands, some bread, a skin of water, and she was sent away out into the wilderness of Beersheba with her son and nothing else. Try to picture it honestly for a moment. Not the Sunday school version. The real one. A woman, alone, in a desert that does not care whether she survives it or not. A child beside her, too young to understand why they're wandering, only old enough to be thirsty and afraid and tired. The bread runs out first. Then worse, the water. And there is a particular kind of fear that arrives when you are responsible for someone else's life, and you can feel your own strength to protect them slipping through your fingers, faster than you can hold on to it. Hagar walked until she couldn't walk any further. And when the water was completely gone, she did something that still breaks something open in me every time I read it. She placed her son under one of the bushes, and then she walked away from him about as far as a bowshot, deliberately putting distance between herself and the child she loved most in the world. Why would a mother do that? Because she said in her own words, "I cannot watch the boy die." She wasn't abandoning him. She was protecting herself from watching the one thing she couldn't survive seeing. And then she sat down some distance away and she began to sob, the kind of crying that doesn't ask permission, that just comes from somewhere too deep to control. That is where we find her, in the exact center of this story. Not triumphant. Not full of faith and confidence. A woman who has run completely out of resources, out of options, out of hope for tomorrow, sitting in the dirt, listening to her own child cry and unable to fix it. If you have ever felt like you have run out of everything you had to give, if tomorrow feels like a desert with no visible water in it, you are standing exactly where Hagar was standing. And I think that's precisely why this story was preserved word for thousands of years. Not to show us a woman with everything figured out, but to show us what happens next, because what happens next changes everything. Here's what's remarkable if you slow down and actually notice it. God didn't rebuke her for crying. God didn't say, "You should have trusted me more, this wouldn't have happened." God didn't quote a tidy verse at her about having more faith, or remind her that things could be worse, or ask her to pull herself together before help would arrive. The text tells us something quieter and far more tender than that. God heard the boy crying. Not a lecture. Not a rebuke. Not even, first, a word to Hagar herself. God heard the sound of suffering and moved toward it. Then an angel called out to her, and asked a question that wasn't really a question at all. It was an invitation to be truly seen. What is the matter, Hagar? Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Not, stop being so emotional. Not, you should have known better. Just, permission to feel what she was feeling, met immediately by comfort, not correction. And then God opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water that had apparently been there the entire time, close enough to save them both, close enough that her strength hadn't needed to carry her one single step further than it already had. I want you to sit with that detail for a moment because it matters more than it might seem at first. The well wasn't created in that moment. It was already there. She simply couldn't see it, because grief and exhaustion and fear had narrowed her vision down to nothing but the absence in her hands, the empty water skin, the child she couldn't save on her own. Provision was near her the entire time she believed she was completely alone. That is not a small detail. That might be the whole story. Because so often when tomorrow feels unbearable, it isn't only because there's nothing there to help us. it's because our exhaustion, our fear, our grief has narrowed our eyes down to only the emptiness in front of us, and we simply cannot see past it, not because we're foolish, but because that is what suffering does to human eyes. Hagar gave this moment a name that has echoed for thousands of years since. She called God El Roi, the God who sees me. Not the God who fixes everything instantly. Not the God who prevents hardship from ever touching her life. The God who sees. Who noticed her, specifically, in the exact wilderness she was sitting in, when she believed no one, not even God, could see that far into the desert. If God saw her there, He can see you here, exactly where you are tonight, however far from a well of water your own tomorrow might feel. Maybe tomorrow for you isn't a literal desert. Maybe it's a diagnosis you're waiting on, and the not knowing is somehow worse than any answer could be. Maybe it's a marriage that feels like it's slipping through your fingers, no matter how tightly you try to hold on to what it used to be. Maybe it's a job that's draining something out of you faster than you know how to replace it, and you don't see a way out that doesn't cost you something you're not sure you can afford to lose. Maybe it's simpler and heavier than any of that. Maybe it's just the plain, unnamed dread of getting up and doing it all again one more time with less inside you than you had yesterday. Whatever it is, here is the quiet truth hidden inside Hagar's story. You are not required to see the well before you're allowed to hope. You are not required to have tomorrow figured out tonight, with a plan and a 5-step strategy, and unshakable confidence that everything is going to work out exactly the way you choose. You are only required to do what Hagar did, which was, honestly, very little in the way of striving. She didn't manufacture the water herself. She didn't out-strategize the wilderness. She sat down in her exhaustion, told the truth about how unbearable it felt, wept without shame, and let herself be seen. There is no verse anywhere in Scripture that says you have to feel strong before God will notice you. There is a story that says the opposite. That a woman with absolutely nothing left, sitting in the dirt, believing she was about to watch tomorrow take everything from her, was seen, heard, and met exactly there. So if tonight, tomorrow feels like more than you can carry, maybe the invitation isn't to see further than you currently can. Maybe the invitation is simply to stop walking for a moment, to let the tears come if they need to, and to trust that provision doesn't have to be visible yet in order to already be near. God is not standing over you tonight, arms crossed, waiting for you to see the well on your own before He'll open your eyes to it. He's already close enough to hear what you haven't even said out loud yet, quietly asking, the way He asked her, "What is the matter? Do not be afraid. I don't want to leave you with only a story. I want to leave you with something you can actually carry into tomorrow, starting tonight." First, name the weight, honestly, the way Hagar's tears named hers before she ever spoke a word. Not in vague terms, but specifically. Say it, even quietly, even just in your own mind. I am afraid of tomorrow because... And finish that sentence truthfully without editing it into something smaller or more acceptable. Honesty is not a lack of faith. Honesty is where faith actually begins to breathe. Second, allow yourself to stop walking, at least for tonight. You do not owe tomorrow a head start. You do not have to solve everything before you sleep, or plan every possible outcome, or exhaust yourself further trying to outthink a fear that isn't finished forming yet. Hagar sat down. That wasn't giving up. That was making room for help to reach her. Third, ask quietly for your eyes to be opened the way hers were. You don't need dramatic language. Something as simple as, "God, if there's provision near me that I can't see right now, please open my eyes to it," is enough. It's not a magic formula. It's an honest request from someone who knows their own vision has narrowed and wants to see beyond it. Fourth, let someone else know you're in the wilderness. Hagar was alone in the desert, but you may not have to be. Isolation makes the well harder to see. A friend, a family member, a counselor, a community, even a comment section like this one, can sometimes be the very thing that helps you notice water you'd otherwise have missed completely. Fifth, release tomorrow from the demand of being solved tonight. You do not have to resolve the diagnosis, the conversation, the finances, or the fear in these next few hours. You only have to survive tonight, gently, one breath at a time, the way Hagar simply survived the hour after her water ran out, before anything else was resolved. If something in tonight's message is sitting with you, I'd love to hear it. If you feel comfortable, write in the comments what tomorrow feels like for you right now, even just a few honest words. Sometimes just typing it out and letting someone else read it and pray over it lightens the weight more than we expect it to. And if this reached you tonight, sharing it with one person who might be sitting in their own version of this wilderness could be exactly the small act that helps them notice a well they hadn't seen yet either. Let's pray together just for a moment before you close your eyes tonight. God, I don't have the strength tonight to pretend that tomorrow doesn't scare me, so I'm not going to pretend. I'm tired in places I don't always have the words for, and some days it feels like the water ran out a long time ago, and I've just been too proud or too scared to say so out loud. I know you heard the boy crying in the wilderness before Hagar ever said a word to you directly. So I'm asking you to hear what I haven't said out loud yet either. Not because I've earned your attention by being strong enough, but because you are the God who sees, and I am asking you to see me tonight, exactly where I am, without pretending, without performing, without having to prove that I'm handling this well. Open my eyes to whatever provision is already near me, even if I can't see it clearly yet. Give me rest before you give me answers. Give me peace before you give me a plan. And when tomorrow comes, let me find that you were already there, ahead of me, in the exact place I was afraid to walk into alone. I lay it down now, all of it, and I ask you to hold it through the night. Amen. Wherever you are tonight, on a couch, in a bed, in a quiet car, in a driveway you're not quite ready to leave yet, I hope something in these words reached the exact place you needed it to reach. Tomorrow will come the way it always does, whether we feel ready for it or not. But you won't be walking into it the same way you walked into tonight, alone and unseen, believing the water had run out completely. Rest now if you can. There may be a well nearer than you think. You are not required to see tomorrow clearly tonight. You are only required to let yourself be seen.